Ask every designer you know, and a lot will tell you a story of how much they loved drawing, creating and craft when they were young, myself included. For most, creativity is a journey that starts from a young age, where we are all encouraged to play, explore and craft. We're introduced to the idea of creating art as early as preschool, and are encouraged to continue when talent is recognised. This is the first stepping stone into a creative life. The joy of craft and creating, and the encouragement received from others, inspires many young people to pursue a career in a creative industry. This is especially the case when the individual and the people around them recognise some sort of talent in the area of craft and creativity. Now, every person with an interest in creativity will at some point need to decide if they wish to pursue a career in creativity or not, and if so, which creative path will they take? As Pablo Picasso said, every child is an artist. The problem is how to remain an artist once they grow up. This can be tricky at any age, as there are so many creative paths, each with their own unique challenges, demanding particular skills and qualities in order to be successful. Understanding your passions and potential skill set will make it easier to choose your creative path. In this video, I'll be answering a question from Wilbert Faliciano, who asks, is an art background required to be a good graphic designer in today's market, or can you make do without it? Now, this is actually a really good question, because I think a lot of young and aspiring designers will face this question. Put simply, a good artist does not make a good graphic designer, as much as a good graphic designer does not make a good artist, because they are in fact different things and should not be mistaken for the same thing. Now, an artist can be a designer and a designer an artist, but being either one does not by default make you good at the other. Now, I don't think you need an art background to be good at graphic design. However, I think many would argue it helps. Now, that is a simple answer, but I think there is a lot to be said on this subject that will help inform you and others. So to answer this question thoroughly and to give you some things to think about and consider, it will help to discuss the following topics. Difference between art and design? Is art required for graphic design education? And what makes a good graphic designer? So let's start with difference between art and design. So if at a young age you display good skills in art, which let's assume you're referring to the skill and talent of drawing, painting or sculpting, well, these skills are only part of what you will need to be a graphic designer. These skills are what I would refer to as craftsmanship skills. Yes, graphic design is exceptionally creative, and good craftsmanship skills are required to create and use software tools. But there is more to being a graphic designer than making things. And let's remember, it is definitely not about making things look pretty or following trends. Now, let's for a moment remember what graphic design is and its roots in history. Graphic design originated from the Industrial Revolution and was once termed commercial art, which was the practice of utilizing visual arts to create visual communication to ultimately promote, distinguish or sell things. Today, commercial art is known as graphic design, though the practice still remains the same but on a much more sophisticated level. Now, graphic design consists of two parts, design and artworking. Graphic design is similar to a lot of design disciplines such as product design, interior design, and even architecture, in that they involve problem solving and coming up with good ideas and solutions to specific problems. Only when an appropriate idea is discovered will you use your creative skills to bring your ideas to life. What makes graphic design different from product design and architecture is the types of problems you will be solving and the materials you will be working with. As an architect, you will be designing buildings and shelters for a variety of spaces and environments, where you will be considering materials such as brick, steel, concrete, and timber. For product design, you will be designing for a variety of products, whose materials may vary from plastic, metal, wood, or fabrics. With graphic design, you are designing for print and digital media using typography, iconography, patterns, and textures to communicate simple to complex messages and to distinguish identities. So with graphic design, like with all design disciplines, it's all about thinking and problem solving first. Now, once you have generated some good ideas, you then need to bring them to life, and this is where your craft skills come in. As a graphic designer, you may be using a variety of mediums to bring your design to life, via a computer, screen print, or through drawing and painting and print. Now, graphic design can be complex and beautiful, or it can be simple and practical. As long as a specific problem is solved, a goal is met, and visual communication is clear, then a design is successful. However, some design compared to other design may be seen as better because of an inherent bias for beauty and aesthetics. In my experience, I have noticed that some people confuse the artworking process of graphic design with art and think that's all it is, making things look good. Because of this, some feel that an art background is required. Now, the artworking process in graphic design is really important. It allows us to bring our ideas to life and develop our ideas into amazing work to stand out and distinguish from others' work. Though it's just the means to the end, which should be determined by meaning and substance realized through the design process. Graphic design is as much the thought and research process that goes into an idea as the craft. To be good at graphic design, you will need to be a good designer, which is primarily all about thinking, generating ideas, and making them happen. Remember, design is more for function, where art is more for display and experience. With graphic design, there will always be a problem to be solved, or a clear message to be communicated for a particular function, and there is typically a predetermined brief or goal, purpose, that needs to be met, which means less freedom of expression than you may have as an artist. As a designer, you will need to exercise a lot of creative discipline, critical thinking, and judgment to create solutions specific to a brief, and that means being objective, which is one of the biggest differences between design and art. A designer will need to be objective when solving problems, so they do what is right specifically for the brief. A good designer will also seek to base whatever creative solution they develop on meaningful and relevant qualities to the solution, not just what they want or think is cool. Now, at times, a brief can be limiting and require work that a designer might not want to do, and other times, there will be room for a variety of creative solutions, which a designer can influence with their own tastes, styles, and recommendations. Now, an artist, on the other hand, is free to create whatever they like, based on any personal feelings, experience, or emotions. This allows the artist to enter into the abstract realm, where their work can be subjective. With art, generally people can experience and interpret it in different ways, whereas a designer's aim is to convey a clear message for a specific person that everyone needs to interpret in the same way. Now, graphic design is not always commercial and can enter into the realms of the abstract and experience, like art, when applied in areas such as galleries, museums, and exhibitions. However, typically in the commercial world, where graphic design mainly exists and where most practitioners will be operating, it needs to be more functional and practical. So, is art required for graphic design education? Well, the simple answer is yes and no, though that depends on which route you go. As one climbs the education ladder to do design courses in school, college, or university, one will typically need some art background and show achievements that one has skills and creativity to enter into such courses. Most designers entering into further education, such as a degree course, will always have some sort of art background because, as mentioned earlier, it's typically part of the creative journey. However, going into design at a degree level, you are starting to specialize, and art itself won't be essential, as there are certain skills and qualities required that differ from art. When applying for a degree course in graphic design, they should not be looking at your ability to draw, paint, and create. In the design world, these are simply the means to the end. These skills will be more valuable, scrutinized, and required for courses in areas like illustration or art. When applying to a degree in graphic design, universities will fundamentally be looking at your work and judging how you can communicate yourself, your work, your ideas, and the ways you approach your work and develop it. You will be judged on how you develop the work, how you produce the work, how you think, your ability to problem solve, if you have the appropriate skill set, and your potential to develop your skills further and grow throughout the course. If you don't have an art background but show good skills with a strong potential, then that should qualify you. Art is typically judged on the end result, the painting, the sculpture, the drawing, and how it makes you feel. Design does not merit these qualities as much. What is important is your approach, your process, and how you communicate your ideas and solutions. Now, some people may not have an art background or any formal qualification and want to take up graphic design, which I think with some commitment and hard work can be done. Today, the classic education route is not for everyone. With universities being very expensive, it can be discouraging. There is a lot that can be learned from online courses, tutorials, and an amazing range of books. These days, there is nothing you can learn in university that you can't learn yourself, with the right attitude and resources. After all, when it comes to graphic design, it's not about your ability to paint or draw. What matters most is your approach, your knowledge of design principles and visual elements, how you communicate your ideas, solutions, and your process. Having good craft skills to bring this all to life is a bonus. So, if you go the classic education route, chances are they will be looking for an art background. Though if you don't, there are still options. So, what makes a good graphic designer? To be a good graphic designer, there will be things you will need to be proficient in, have knowledge of, and certain qualities you will need, such as having a good understanding of visual elements and design principles, being a good thinker, communicator, problem solver, and critical thinker, being good at coming up with ideas and challenging your ideas, having good discipline and judgment, able to work to deadline, to instruction, and able to be objective. Notice how I didn't mention being good at any creative tools there. Keep in mind, being good in Photoshop does not make you a good graphic designer. Being good in Illustrator does not make you a good graphic designer, and even being good at drawing doesn't make you a good graphic designer. Those things are a means to the end. It's what comes before those things that make you a truly great designer. It's the quality of ideas you generate to solve problems and deliver creative solutions, which makes you a good graphic designer. And that is done by developing a good design process, which includes thorough research, thorough understanding of the problem, the brief, and generating good and fresh ideas, which only then will you seek to create with creative tools. So then, if an art background is not required to be a graphic designer, what can it help with? Having an art background would help with some of the technical aspects of creating design, such as understanding shape and form, understanding color theory, artworking, and crafting ideas. What a background in art won't help you with: coming up with ideas, deploying a design process, exercising discipline and focusing your design with an unbiased view, critical thinking, and objectivity. So, if you're thinking of getting into graphic design but don't have an art background, don't let that discourage you. Remember, art does not make you a good graphic designer. It requires knowledge and skills in specific areas. If you're really interested in design, feel you have what it takes, and want to develop a skill, then I would encourage you to invest some time in developing your skills and knowledge. Make sure you have the basics covered. Get a good practical knowledge of visual elements and design principles. You'd be surprised what they don't teach you at universities, a lot of which can be learned online, and there are a lot of good books out there. If you're after some inspiration on what books to get, check out the hashtag GDS Book Club over on Instagram, where I have a recommendation of a good selection. This is the beauty of design today. It is accessible to all. It does not discriminate. Anyone can pick up design. All you need is a pencil and you can start to create something. Your success will be based on your skill, talent, and ability to problem solve, communicate, and bring your ideas to life. So what are your thoughts on an art background? Do you think it's necessary to be a graphic designer? Be sure to share your thoughts in the comment section, and if any of you have any questions regarding design, be sure to pop them in the description or email me at creative@garethdavidstudio.com, and I look to get back to you with a thorough answer. Also, be sure to hit that subscribe button to see more design Q&A videos like this in future. Until then, have fun guys, and I'll see you next time.